In a distant spiral arm, humanity arrived as traders, explorers, and reluctant diplomats among the council. Of older species, the station called Harbor of Quiet Laws floated like a jeweled wheel, and inside it rules mattered more than weapons. Alex was a survey envoy, trained to observe, listen, and survive by patience, rather than force. The council species, known as the Leary, were tall, calm, and bound by ancient codes that treated hospitality as sacred beyond negotiation. When storms have charged, dust cut power across the station, and error of quarters. Assignment placed Alex and a Leary envoy named Island into a single sleeping chamber with one bed, the station. Wardens sealed sections to preserve air and heat, and law took over where technology failed. Under Leary code, shared rest space during a night of danger created a bond of mutual guardianship that endured for life. Alex did not know this, and Island assumed any guest would know. The lights dimmed, and alarms softened into a distant hum, and the bed waited like a quiet verdict. Alex offered to sleep on the floor, but the floor plates grew cold, and the Leary code forbade waste of warmth during crisis. Island spoke gently, explaining that the law demanded shared rest and shared watch and shared promise. Alex listened and agreed, because humans adapt, and because survival often begins with trust. They lay side by side, fully clothed, hands visible, eyes open, learning the rhythm of another breathing. Hours passed with whispered stories of home and service, and the strange comfort of two minds choosing calm. When power returned, the wardens opened the doors and bowed in respect to the bonded pair. Alex tried to explain the mistake, but the council records had already marked the union a bond for life, meant alliance of houses, mutual defense, and shared future deliberations. The human delegation panicked, fearing scandal, yet the council reacted with relief because stability was precious. Island stood before the council and spoke of Alex's courage and courtesy during the night of danger. Alex stood beside Island and spoke of human flexibility and the promise to honor laws once learned. Debate followed with careful tones, and the outcome surprised many. The council recognized the bond while granting humans a path to redefine its meaning through service rather than romance. Thus began a partnership that reshaped trade and trust. Alex and Island traveled together not as lovers, but as guardians of the bridge between peoples. They slept in separate quarters when possible, yet shared watch during crises to honor the origin law. Pirates tested the lanes and were turned away by coordinated fleets guided by joint codes. Famine threatened a rim world, and relief arrived because bonded authority cut through delay. Across years, stories spread of the one-bed bond that forged peace. Humans earned a reputation for learning fast, respecting customs, and turning accidents into alliances. The Leary learned that humans valued consent and clarity, and adapted their codes for visitors. When age silvered Alex's hair, an Island mantle, the bond remained a quiet strength. They looked back on a night of dust and darkness, and a bed that taught two species how to choose each other. Their journey took them through markets where gravity shifted like tides, and through halls where memory crystals sang of past wars. Alex learned to read Leary silence as carefully as human speech, and Island learned to read human humor as a sign of resilience. Together they faced a tribunal on Vane, where a mining dispute threatened bloodshed. Alex proposed a schedule of shared yields backed by transparent ledgers, a human habit that impressed the elders. Island invoked ancient precedent, aligning the plan with tradition, and the crisis ended without loss on the frontier station. Kesh, a reactor failure trapped workers in vacuum. Cold human engineers improvised SEALs from Cargo Fabric and Lyric organized evacuation. The bond allowed command to flow without delay, and lives were saved. Songs followed not of romance, but of competence and courage. A council scholar asked how humans turned chance into covenant. Alex answered that humans survived a harsh world by trusting strangers quickly, then proving worthy. Island answered that law was a living thing that grew when honored with care. Years passed, and the partnership became a model taught in academies. Children of many species learned that rules could protect without imprisoning. When a plague of nanospore threatened trade routes, fear rose again. Alex coordinated human medical teams adapting tools for alien biology. Island secured consent across cultures, ensuring dignity and patience. The cure spread with shared credit and shared gratitude. At ceremonies they stood apart, yet united, a visible symbol of mutual respect. Some asked whether the bond ever felt heavy. Alex admitted it carried responsibility, but also clarity. Island said weight was not burden. When shared, a star shifted and borders softened. The one bed bond remained a lesson rather than a scandal. It taught that accidents reveal character, and that law, when met by empathy, can become bridge. In the end, when they retired from travel, they returned to harbor of quiet laws. The station had changed with brighter gardens and warmer halls. The chamber with one bed was preserved. As a museum space, visitors stood in silence, imagining the night that began it all. Alex and Island visited together and bowed to the memory. They left a message. For future travelers, choose patience, choose respect, choose the courage to learn. Humanity carried the story outward and inward. Outward is proof that humans could belong without conquest. Inward as a reminder that listening builds strength. Thus the council endured, and the lanes stayed open, and among the stars a simple law and a single bed shaped history. Scholars later dissected the event, seeking a formula for peace. They found none beyond habits practiced daily. Alex kept journals describing failures as carefully as victories. Island archived decisions with annotations explaining emotion to future readers. Together they mentored new envoys, pairing humans with non-humans. Training emphasized presence, breath control, and the art of asking before acting. Simulations recreated the dust storm and the locked doors. Students learned that panic narrows choices while trust expands them. On one mission, a warlord challenged the bond, calling it weakness. Alex declined combat and offered supply routes. Instead, Island framed the offer as honor through protection of the vulnerable. The warlord accepted, and a border quieted. In another case, a misunderstanding of time cycles nearly collapsed talks. Human adaptability created rotating teams. Leary ritual anchored meetings with patience. Compromise emerged naturally across cultures. The phrase one bed became shorthand for shared risk. Merchants adopted joint insurance pools. Pilots shared navigation data openly. Even rival species found value in limited bonds with clear rules. Humans were often invited to inaugurate such agreements, not because of power, but because of reputation. They learned the law, then helped others see themselves within it. When grief struck and a Leary city lost a dome, Alex organized relief while Island mourned publicly. The sight of a human standing watch during ritual silence moved many. Trust deepened again, and home worlds debates continued about identity and boundaries. The partnership offered a case study that balanced autonomy with commitment. No one was erased. Both were enlarged. As age advanced, they prepared successors, a young human named Eli and a Leary named Nara, trained under them. The bond transferred, not as marriage, but as stewardship. The lesson persisted laws are stories we agree to live inside when written with care. They can hold many kinds of people when necked with fear. They fracture Alex and Island rested knowing their work would outlive them. Final years were quiet yet meaningful. They walked gardens. Comparing constellations, Alex pointed out human myths of hunters and rivers. Island shared Leary tales of patience and cycles. Neither claimed the other's story. They placed them side by side. Visitors asked whether love grew. From the bond, Alex said love had many forms. Respect was one. Island said continuity was another, when storms returned as they always do. Younger envoys followed the example. Beds were assigned carefully, and laws explained clearly. Mistakes still happened, but fear no longer ruled. The council revised codes, adding consent clauses inspired by human dialogue. Humans revised training, adding cultural humility. Inspired by Leary calm, the galaxy felt slightly safer. On the last day, Alex recorded a final entry. Humans thrive when we listen first. Island sealed the archive. With a symbol meaning shared watch, they departed the station together for the final time, not bound by romance, not trapped by accident, bound by choice renewed every day. The stars witnessed and moved on. History remembered the night of dust and the law that met a human willingness to adapt. After their passing, commemorations spread without monuments. Ships carried a simple inscription about shared rest and shared risk. Academies taught the case as ethics, not legend. Pilgrims came from worlds once hostile. They practiced sitting quietly beside strangers for a night, guarding warmth and breathing together. Many reported insight rather than revelation. Fear softened. Agreements followed. Economists measured gains, but poets measured trust. Humans were no longer curiosities. They were partners. The Leary were no longer distant. They were neighbors. Trade flowed with fewer escorts. Borders became meetings. The phrase mated for life shifted. Meaning across cultures, it came to mean accountable for life, careful with words, present when needed. Such meanings endure. They do not require force. They require listening. The galaxy continued, imperfect and vast, yet within it a story traveled faster than ships. Story of one bed and many futures in time. Skeptics challenged the tale. They searched records for hidden romance or coercion. They found transparency and minutes of debate.